Well, hello there. A very good evening to you. A day later than planned due to the non eclipse here in Ireland. I hope that those of you in the path of totality in Canada and the United States enjoyed a spectacular show yesterday. I know for certain that Elaine Dent Lingenfelter did because she shared some of her photographs, and of course, they had clear skies. So, it's a beautiful evening here in the Boyne Valley, largely cloud free, blue sky. The day before the eclipse, lovely evening, lovely sunset, lovely blue sky. The day of the eclipse, total cloud cover, rain all day and all evening long. Not a single gap anywhere in the clouds through which to see any eclipse. I hope you're all in good form. It's Tuesday, and our regular Monday live stream postponed because of my futile and feeble efforts to capture some photographs of the beginning of the eclipse, which we might have seen and was captured by a few people in coastal parts of Western and Southwestern Ireland yesterday evening. Anyway, spectacular event. And if you saw the total eclipse, please do tell us. And yeah, well, for you. I've never seen a total eclipse of the sun, only almost total in both 1999 and 2014. Not sure of the second one, the exact year. Anyway, I'll say hello to a few people. If you're joining us this evening, if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and definitely ring the notification bell. Click on the notifications because when we're streaming or when new videos are uploaded, you may not get notified unless you do that. And I know some people have missed episodes precisely for that reason. If you're on Facebook, the main page is the Mythical Ireland page on Facebook. But don't forget, there is also the Mythical Ireland community group and a growing, burgeoning population of followers there, fascinated, as I am, with Ireland's ancient megalithic mythological past. Anyway, for us to say hello this evening is Ali, who's saying hello from Tucson in Arizona. Ali, a very good afternoon to you. Not sure if Arizona was too far west for the eclipse. Hope you're in good form. Lily Shambles is in the house. Evening, hope all are well. In good form here. Lily, Barbara Murphy is telling us that Lexi Erickson is having difficulty. I possibly shouldn't ask what kind of difficulty. I presume relating to difficulty accessing the stream. Hopefully she will be able to get on, as it were. Wayne Bird says, a very good evening, Anthony. Hello, everyone. Hope you're all well. How was your moonlighting last night? How does the moon cut its hair? He eclipsed it. Yeah. That's actually as good as any joke I've ever come up with, in fairness. Rex Fortenberry is saying, greetings, Anthony, and great and mighty to ready for some ancient social history and maybe a few ancient dad jokes. Yeah, we'll see what we can rustle up. Brendan Byrne is in the house. Good evening, all. Was that the sun I saw in the sky today over here? Yes. The day after an eclipse. Oh, don't even get me started. What are we supposed to do? Somebody didn't leave out the child of Prague. Lexi Erickson is on now. Brilliant. Just lowering down my heater. Lexi, great to see you. And yes, your technical troubles have passed, hopefully. Dang, that was short. Barbara Murphy, odd comment was to get Lexi on. Somehow, surprise, Facebook was being a pain. No, surely not Facebook. That wonderful edifice of social media. And Lexi tells us she's in sunny Denver. Very nice. Did you see any of the eclipse yesterday? Brent Johnson is saying hello from New Brunswick. Oh, well, a very good afternoon to you, Brent. I hope you're in good form. Thanks for joining us for this episode number 274 of Live Irish Myths and our 22nd episode reading A Social History of Ancient Ireland by P.W. Joyce. The full Irish Gary is saying, good evening, great and good to it. Another fine day in the glory of our goddess. I like the way you phrase that, actually. Yeah, yes, indeed. Yesterday not such a fine day. Mavanwe Millward says, evening all. I'm so sorry you missed the eclipse, Anthony. What can we do about this weather? Move, relocate somewhere where it's more likely to be clear. I know. Once-off astronomical events in Ireland. Dodgy. 2014, yes. Yeah, I could probably, while I'm chatting with you, search my photographic archive for the word eclipse and find the images and confirm. I went out to the eclipse, only about 75% here. Still fun. I'm sorry for all of you in Ireland. Worth the delay for a chance for Anthony photos, which are non-existent. I mean, to be honest, I didn't even take the camera out. There just simply wasn't any possibility of seeing anything. Crystal, is that a French name? Michal? No, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Crystal is in central Iowa. Very good afternoon to you, Crystal. Thank you for joining us. You're very welcome to Live Irish Myths. Brent Johnson is saying it was absolutely incredible here. The eclipse, brilliant stuff. Delighted. I wonder, did you get any photographs? Please do share them on the Mythical Ireland community. Elaine Dent-Lingenfelter is late. Fresh off to the excitement of the total eclipse, now after storms and hail. The opposite of what happened in Ireland, where we didn't get storms quite, but totally cloudy. Let me just quickly have a look. The partial eclipse. Yeah, just trying to find out properties. 2015, 20th of March. Oh yes, that was the spring equinox eclipse. It was 2015. 2015. Kelly Nichali is saying greetings from Ballyclea. Are you in Dublin, Kelly? Ballyclea. Well, wow. Welcome to our time zone. No Pacific Northwest today. Brilliant stuff. Tuesday Thompson is saying happy mythology and Taco Tuesday. What is Taco Tuesday? Dare I even ask? Does it involve tacos? Oh no, I actually think it was 2015, last eclipse of the sun. Spot on, Mavanway. Tom King is in the house. Hello there, Anthony on the Mighty Tuatha. A beautiful day in the Boyne Valley, ancient East. Hope all in good fettle. Enjoy story time. All good, Tom. Hope you're busy. I think you are, I suspect. Good stuff. Denver's sun was 65% covered, but still good. Brilliant. I'm glad you got to see something of it. We would only have seen about 10% covered, a bite out of the sun, as it were, had there not been wall-to-wall cloud. Anne McCallum says, hello, Anton, and all the mighty two. I hope everyone is well, and that some of you managed to see the eclipse. Buffalo for a music and set dance weekend, so stayed for the eclipse. What an amazingly awesome experience. It was a bit cloudy at times, but when the clouds parted and the sun came out, it was absolutely stunning. When it went dark and cold, it was so great. And when the sun came back out again, it was absolutely brilliant. An unforgettable experience. We were on a rooftop and we could hear different groups of people yelling when the sun came out of the clouds. Brilliant stuff. Unforgettable, isn't it? You know, a once-in-a-lifetime event. And delighted that you got to see it. And brilliant stuff. And I bet you're glad you waited. Burr Whelan is in the house. Hi, Anthony. Hi to a sunny and blue skies in Dublin today. I was going to say South Dublin. I don't know where I saw the word South. Good evening to you, Burr. Crystal, yeah, pronounced Michaud. Michaud. Bonsoir. Is that what we say? Edina Sparks is in the house. Hello, Anthony, on the Tuatha. We had clouds, but got to see the eclipse off and on. Of course, today it's clear skies. I was lucky. The two major partial eclipses of the sun that I've seen. There's one that I shared yesterday with the crow in it. That was more recent. That was 2022. That was only a very slight eclipse. But the ones with major coverage were 2015 and 1999. And the clouds actually helped because they helped to create some very atmospheric photographs as the clouds passed in front of the sun. Joni Videos is saying, Wayne Byrne, send me a friend. Oh my God. Okay. Right. We know what to do there, folks. Report. Please go away. And don't come back another day. Alibaba Streatham says, Gia Gwitch o Conde on Chlár. Agus Gia agus Bangia Gwitch Ali O'Kondelu. Good evening to you, Tranonoa. Right, somebody get... I'll do it myself too, because I think that will help. Joni videos, go away. Do. One moment, please. Hopefully I can get to the root of this issue fairly quickly. Joni also asking Anne McCallum for a friend request for an accurate reading. Wow. An accurate reading of what? Your bloody tea leaves? Yeah. Fingers crossed. But if you're on, it's the main Facebook page. And if you're seeing comments from Joni videos, please click the three dots beside them and report them. Balya Clear, yes, indeed, Kelly. Sophie B. Reed Fisher. Aha! Caught you live after a long while. I have to tell you, the music you play to count down your lives is rather catchy to my taste. Oh, I'm glad to hear it. Sophia, whose name means wisdom. Fantastic. Very good afternoon / evening / morning to you. Not sure what part of the world you're in. You're very welcome. Hope you enjoy the stream. Martina Drolin-Linsky is here. Hi, all. Is that a rainbow? After all the rain, yes, that's what happens. 20 Celsius where Anne McCallum is. Very nice. Send a few degrees this way, please. And yes, thank you, Elaine Dent Lingenfelter. I'm sure you will also report now. I'm seeing repeat comments as usual. Yeah, don't worry. If you see those comments from Joni videos, please report. You would imagine, right, that there'd be an easy way to ban somebody on a Facebook page. It's not that easy, actually. Facebook have made it bloody damn difficult to do. Peter, did you change the chair? I'll tell you what happened. The missus is working here too now. She has my chair, so I had to get another one. She commandeered the lovely chair. I hope you're having a good evening, Peter. Haven't seen you in a while, which means I hope that you're hectically busy. Let me just see if I can. Let me see if those comments are still coming in. If I can't get rid of them using the phone. There's two Anthonys all of a sudden. We do not want that. Yeah. I'm not sure. We haven't seen any new comments from that spammer. So hopefully that will remain the case. Few things before we get started. One is Fornox this Saturday. If you're in Ireland and you fancy a tour of Fornox, I am hosting a tour at 10 o'clock on Saturday. That is selling fast. Oh, it's getting cloudy now. Don't even go there. So I may put on a second tour on Saturday at maybe 12 noon. That's if you're interested in taking part, you can book your slot on the Mythical Ireland website on the tours page. And I will share the link for that. And even if you're not going, but you know somebody who would be very interested in coming along, please share the link with them. Ad Astral Music is in the house. Good evening to you. Hope you're in good form. Other announcements. If you subscribe to the email newsletter, it's like no more than one email a week. Between now and next Monday, the 15th of April, you will get a free €10 voucher towards books and limited edition prints and artworks on the Mythical Ireland website. Just sharing the link there where you can go straight to the website and enter your email address and subscribe to our newsletter. So that's a free €10 voucher. So whether you're already subscribed or whether you're a new subscriber, next Monday, every one of you who is subscribed will receive a €10 voucher for the Mythical Ireland website. And if you're on there and you know somebody who might be interested in the sort of emails that come from Mythical Ireland, tell them to sign up. Don't forget that we have a 3-for-2 offer on limited edition prints at the moment. So you buy 2 and you actually get 3 for the... Sorry, you buy 3 and you get those 3 for the price of 2. That applies to prints of various sizes. And an additional announcement, and this is being announced here first and foremost, lowering the heater again because it's just getting a little bit too warm. An additional announcement is that there's 2 new sizes. So up until the past few days, there's been 2 sizes. We call them medium and large. The medium, this depends on what country you're in, but they're given in either centimeters if you're in Europe or inches if you're in the States. The medium is a 12-inch by 8-inch print. The large is an 18-inch by 12-inch print, or if you like, in European money, 30.5 by 20.3 centimeters, and the large is 45.7 centimeters by 30.5. We now have the possibility of extra large and super large. Now, I haven't got samples to show you, but I do intend to get them made in the coming week. The extra large comes in at 24 inches by 16 inches. And the super large comes in at 36 inches by 24 inches, which is the largest print that we can get made through our local supplier. So if you're interested in having some of those limited edition prints adorning your walls, pop over to the Mythical Ireland online shop, and I'll give you the link that takes you directly to all of the prints where you can browse the galleries and choose something of your liking. So lots on offer at the moment. And Scott Doherty is late. Almost forgot to tune in. Wow, come here, better late than never. You're very welcome, and good to see you. And just to mention, as always, if you want to support Mythical Ireland and get extra content, stuff that is either exclusive to you completely or shared with patrons first and foremost, please do consider becoming a patron of Mythical Ireland at patreon.com/Mythical Ireland. I would say one thing. There's very little point signing up for the free Patreon because you don't get anything for that. The point is that the people who actually pay get content. I hope that makes sense. Patreon a while back introduced these new free signups, and to be honest, I don't really share anything with the free patrons that's not already on social media. And the best level to sign up at is, of course, the Bronze Age level, which will cost you the princely sum of $10 a month, or the euro or pound or Canadian dollars or Australian dollars equivalent. It's not much, and for that you get a lot more than you get at other levels. Mythical Ireland art, says Catherine Hupp. Sounds great. Yeah, I think you'll like some of those prints. Some of those, of course, are images that you would have seen on the social media channels and on the website over the past few years. And I hope that it doesn't sound like I'm boasting, but I hope you agree that some of those are iconic images. Yes, indeed, that's exactly how they're sent, Lexi. Mounted prints are only available on medium and large. They're not available on the extra large and the super large because it just wouldn't be practical to send something that big. It would get bent and folded and damaged. So the way they will be sent to the States is exactly like that, rolled up in a cardboard tube. Yeah, good question, by the way. Adina is Adina, it just struck me that your surname is very apt when you're asking Tom King a question, because when he strikes the hot iron on the anvil, sparks come out. You may have seen some very nice photographs displaying just that. I mean, I think I've taken a few, but the very best one I've seen is by the press photographer Paul Connor, who was out with Tom last year. Was it last year, Tom, or the year before? I think it was last year. And a fabulous photo of just as the hammer comes down, sparks flying out in each direction. Really, really great photograph. Josie Weatherford is in the house. Gee, you've Cade Maratá Shiv. Well, I'm in fine fettle. Josie, hope you're also in good form. Anthony August Macharja Ella. My other friends. Brilliant stuff, Josie. Desiree Riley is popping in to say hello. I'm at dentist office about to get a root canal. Good luck with that. Maybe the dentist will let you take the phone in and you can listen to my soothing tones while let's not even try to describe what's going to go on in there. Good to see you, Desiree. Hope it all goes well. Hope it's pain and hassle free for you and that it does the job for you. John Inman says, a grey day in Eureka. Just like it was. The weather that we had yesterday must have moved across there, you know. Sandra Boothroyd is in the house. Evening, y'all. Yes, indeed, Sandra. And that is not a mispronounced or properly pronounced even name of a village or a town in Eastern Cork. Y'all. Never mind. Connie Reader has joined us. Hi, everyone. Enjoying my total eclipse afterglow. How lucky. For all of you who saw it, just checking my lights. For all of you who saw it, isn't it well for you? And just as I speak to you, you may see that there is still some stray light coming in. If I was to, for instance, close the blind down, you'd see that it's not dark. It's wonderful. I love this time of year, but it'll be getting dark shortly. So that's why all the lights are on. Anyway, we will pick up where we left off last week. And where we left off was we were actually talking about pre-Christian paganism. We were talking about pre-Christian beliefs and especially deities and figures of worship, etc., etc. The Irish, are we all settled and ready? Have you got your cup of tea or your dram or your pint of Guinness, if you prefer, in your hand? The Irish had an idol called, in Cormac's glossary, Bial, B-I-A-L, and named Baal, B-E-L, in an ancient manuscript quoted by Petrie in his Tara, page 84, which also states that on a certain festival day, quote, 2 of the young of every kind of cattle were exhibited as in the possession of Baal, unquote, i.e. presented or offered to him. Stokes, Cormac's glossary, quotes a statement from another ancient manuscript that, quote, a fire was always kindled in B-I-E-L or B-I-A-L's name at the beginning of summer, i.e. on May Day, and cattle were driven between the 2 fires. That's Bealtaine. He doesn't say that here, but that's pretty much the same thing. Yes, I know semantics. Bealtaine and May Day. Bealtaine, not the old cross-quarter day, not falling on the 1st of May. But the Gregorian calendar and all its idiosyncrasies has given us what we have in terms of a modern calendar. Keating also, who had authority for all his statements, excuse me, tells us that during the yearly May meeting at Uisneach, we're going there soon. I'm giving a talk at Uisneach this year. I'll be talking about 4 knocks. They offered sacrifice to the chief god whom they adored, whose name was Baal, B-E-L. And that's, by the way, if you're wondering who Keating is, that's Geoffrey Keating and his History of Ireland, which I think was compiled in the 17th century. Now, just let me catch up on comments here for one moment, just make sure I haven't missed anyone. What page? Reading along. Page 279, Lexi. Page 279. Darren Anthony. When will you give us a video on our true primary law on Bunrock? I don't know, Darren Anthony, because that sounds like that's about 20th century law, and this is a channel about Irish mythology and prehistory and folklore and monuments. So, not sure about the relevance. So, maybe you could explain the relevance. But if it's not relevant, then no, I probably won't do a video about it. Brent Johnson. I'll ask a silly question. My ancestors left the Irvinestown area in 1847. I want to connect more with that area. Is there a book or books you'd recommend? The quickest and simplest answer, Brent, is I don't even know where that is. I shouldn't. A quick... can't type. A quick Google search will reveal that it is in the county of Fermanagh in Northern Ireland. No, I mean... One thing that I'm not good on, or haven't been good on so far, is tracing your ancestors and genealogy. Not sure. Perhaps there are others here. I regularly find when I can't answer a question, there are others watching the stream who are able to help with such things. But yeah, there were famine era immigrants, obviously, Brent. Yeah, you should be able to find. There's lots of sources now, but those specific sources, I couldn't tell you. I do have in my possession a book which I can't immediately find called Tracing Your Irish Ancestors. That's a book that may be a starting point, you know. Yeah, sorry I can't help you more. Jeannie Foley is saying, "Good evening, Anthony. Just listening to you while I recover from the flu." Oh, well, I'm sorry to hear that you were laid low. Glad to hear that you're recovering, and glad to hear that for some reason I'm able to help you in that with apparently my the calming influence of my vocal cords, which are a little bit under pressure at the moment. I'm a little bit hoarse this evening, so if you can please forgive me, folks, I'm going to suck on a lozenge while I read because my throat is a bit dry. In fact, shouldn't throw away the wrapper, Anthony, because I may take it out halfway through if it gets annoying. Anyway, get well soon, Jeannie, and you know what they say, hot whiskey helps an awful lot. Brendan Byrne reports that we had a full total eclipse in Wicklow. It started in December and ended today. Well, I didn't know this, but apparently it has hardly stopped raining since July of last year. Last July was the wettest on record, and we've had more than average, higher than average rainfall in most months since then. The driest month since last June was November. So I know we had a very, very dull winter. Very dull. We saw so little of the sun. Barbara is telling Tom about a copy of Charles Luton Brain's Fold Forming. Sounds something to do with forging. Sounds fascinating, but it's none of my business because Barbara's talking to Tom. She's not talking to me. Mavanway says, very excited. I'm reading along too today. My copy arrived yesterday. The right volume this time. Brilliant stuff. Now you can chuckle as I embarrass myself by stumbling over certain words. Okay, let's move on. So we were talking about during the yearly May meeting at Ushna, people offered sacrifice to their chief god whom they adored, whose name was Baal. And this is in Keating. And repeats the statement about offering the young of the cattle. A similar... Should I do a rabbit hole? I'm just not sure which volume of Keating I have. And whether it's the one that I have that this is... I have part 1. And there is no page 300 in that. So it's obviously not... No, it's obviously not volume 1. Okay, ignore. A similar statement is made in another ancient authority, The Wooing of Emer in Revue Celtique 11, page 443. But here the offering is made at a different season. We are informed that at Brone Trogan, i.e. the beginning of autumn, and I've done a video and a live stream about Brone Trogan, the beginning of the harvest. The beginning of the autumn, the young of every kind of animal used to be, quote, assigned to the possession of the idol Baal, unquote. In none of these cases does there appear to have been a sacrifice. It was a mere nominal offer. Down to 200 years ago, remember this book was published in 1903, the memory of this Irish god was preserved in the Western Islands of Scotland. For Martin, page 105, I don't know what Martin that is, tells us that the people there had a god whom they called Bel. Yeah, this is fascinating. Because I'm not sure. I think in more recent times, linguists, philologists medieval scholars have suggested that Baal, the idea that the ancient Irish had a god who was similar to this Baal, or a god called Baal, was disputed because Baal was a not Phoenician, Babylonian deity. But this is Baal. This is different. And Baal, I wonder if there's a relationship here. Um, I'm just connecting dots in my poorly organized brain. Bealtina. I wonder if there's a connection. I seem to remember that there's certainly that has been claimed, but I'm not sure whether the sources for that are entirely scholarly or a little bit on the dodgy side. So much nonsense has been written about the connection of the Phoenicians with Ireland that one almost hesitates to touch on the subject at all, speaking of the Phoenicians. Yet when we bear in mind the well-known historical facts that the Phoenicians introduced the worship of their sun god Baal, B-A-A-L, into the... So it was Phoenician. I thought Baal was Babylonian, no? Baal, according to a quick research, this is the Britannica Encyclopedia, God worshipped in many ancient Middle Eastern communities, especially among the Canaanites. Sorry, I'll reread. Yet when we bear in mind the well-known historical facts that the Phoenicians introduced the worship of their sun god Baal. I don't know why I pronounce that like a sheep. Every time I see it, that's what I want to do. It's my natural inclination. Introduced the worship of their sun god Baal into the neighbouring countries and into all their colonies, including Spain, with which last named country, Ireland, had early close communication. That the Phoenicians themselves were well acquainted with Ireland, that this worship was widely spread, each country having its own god, Baal or Bel, that the Irish Baal was worshipped and is spelled various ways, B-E-L, B-I-E-L, B-I-A-L, was worshipped with fire ceremonies, as we know Baal himself was. And lastly, the identity of the Phoenician and Irish names for their respective gods. It seems impossible to resist the belief that the name and worship of the Irish Baal was derived directly or indirectly from the Phoenicians. And I think somebody that we can thank for at least for some confusion about apparent linguistic connections between Ireland and the Near East is our good friend Mr. Charles Valency, the 17th century military surveyor, who wrote a lot of stuff. Some of it was nonsense, but some of it was very interesting. What page are we on? Everyone's reading tonight. Brilliant. Just started page 280, Caitlin. Yes. Rabbit holes are often highlights of my day, says Barbara. Well, maybe we'll go down one before the end of an episode. That is Martin Martin's book. Martin. Wow, fascinating name. About the Scottish folklore. And also William Wilde writes about this Bealtaine connection with Baal in his book, Irish Superstitions and Beliefs. Thank you for that. That's a book I haven't got. I have his Boyne and Blackwater book, all right. All very interesting. I think it's sort of exactly as Joyce said as he wrote in 1903. I think it's still the case a lot of scholars would look at Baal and Bel and go, oh my God, no, can't go there. I'm just making sure I didn't miss anyone because I didn't see Caitlin. Caitlin, you're in Dublin, aren't you? Yeah, I think I'm caught up. One of the Irish words for an idol was Idal, I-D-A-L, or Idol, which of course was borrowed from the Irish into the Irish language from Greek through Latin. Wow. But there are native terms also. Aracht, A-R-R-A-C-H-T, is a shape, a likeness, a spectre, an idol. When St. Patrick went to Cashel, All the Arachts in King Angus's palace fell on their faces, like Dagon before the ark. A more common word is Lov Dia, which literally means hand god, a small portable idol, a household god, like the teraphim of the Hebrews and the penates of the Romans. When Rachel departed from her father's house, as the Psalter Naran tells the story, she brought away with her her father's Lov Joe, which is the Irish rendering of the teraphim. And that Dio, D-E-O, sounds like it Deo. It sounds like a Latinized version of the Irish word dia, or a bastardization, maybe. In like manner, in the Irish version of a portion of the Aeneid, in the book of Ballymote, we are told that when Aeneas is it Aeneas, or remember I did this before? I never know how to pronounce that. When Aeneas was about to fly from Troy, he said, quote, "Let Anchises take the live Joe, Penates, household gods, in brackets, with him." Just as the deluge was about to come on, Bith and his daughter Kezer, here pronounced Caesar, asked Noah for a place in the ark. And being refused, this is in Laura Gawala, they consulted a Lov Gia, a hand god, who advised them to make a ship for themselves and go to sea, which they did, and set sail for Ireland. Joyce Keating, page 49. It was, no doubt, hand gods of this kind that the poet brought into his bed when he was about to go to sleep for revelations under the influence of Embas Forestney, the knowledge that illuminates this mysterious ability, gift of the poets and the bards and the druids to gain superior knowledge and sometimes to see the future. Such handy little gods, corresponding with the Roman Penates and Lares, are probably the household gods referred to under the name Thrumge in the following short article, quoted in a note by O'Donovan in Cormac's glossary, from some old Irish glossary. Thrumge, Tromdhe, i.e. tutelary gods, i.e. floor gods or gods of protection. Yeah, tutelary, Banba, Fola and Eru being the triplicate tutelary goddesses of Ireland. Tutelary, I would say, is guardian, gods of protection, guardian gods, guardian goddesses. And now we begin a section on page 281, if you're following, about human sacrifice. I know, right? Dun, dun, dun. Facebook keeps stopping anytime I go to make a comment. Good job. We're on YouTube too, isn't it? As an alternative. Aeneas is the way I've heard. Aeneas. Aeneas. Is it Aeneas? Aeneas. I'm trying to get that right. Yeah. Wow. All the comments are on Facebook. Sorry, all the comments are on YouTube. What happened to the Facebook stream? Uh-oh, Houston, we've had a problem. Okay. So I'm watching the Facebook stream, so it's okay. Oh, I wonder, is this to do with all the reports of that pest who was spamming people earlier on? I wonder if, because there were so many reports, that Facebook overreacted now and won't let any comments. Let me see if I can comment as Mythical Ireland. Test comment. Posting. We're still here, says Mavanwe. Yeah, I just saw a whole stream of YouTube comments and no Facebook comments. There hasn't been a Facebook comment for ages. The last Facebook comment. Hang on. Oh, that can't be right. Something's going on here. Adina Sparks, still here. No, all good here. Okay. Okay. You're all so enthralled that you weren't making any comments. I was getting a bit paranoid there for a moment. I just saw a long, long stream of YouTube comments and no Facebook comments. Facebook is messing up because Mercury is in the microwave again. Yeah. If you were to regulate your life around the movement of Mercury, you would spend half your life in bed and not making any decisions. I can't believe the amount of comments I see and posts I see on Facebook. You know, Mercury's in retrograde, don't do anything, you know? And then when it comes out of retrograde, it's like, yay! You know? Okay, all the Facebookers are commenting now. That's great. I'm glad to know you're all still here. I didn't put you to sleep. So we're beginning the section of religion, learning, and art. Page 281, section 6, human sacrifice. This has been a long section, but I think you'll agree it has been a fascinating section. And that began with druids, their functions and powers. I can't remember how many episodes ago that was. In connection with idol worship, it will be convenient to examine the question whether human beings were sacrificed in ancient Ireland. There is only a single document in Old Irish literature stating that human sacrifice was practiced as part of a religious rite, namely the Danann. In this, it is mentioned twice, once in the account of Tailteann, the other in that of my Schlecht. The first, as we know, was penned by a Christian scribe, for it mentions the preaching of St. Patrick, and the other was obviously produced by the same hand or under the same influence. Indeed, throughout the whole of the Danann, there are many Christian allusions and remarks indicating that the writer was a monk, something we've recognized and discussed on our live streams for many, 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 many months, years now, actually. In accounting for the name of Tailteann, now Telltown in County Meath, he takes occasion to state that St. Patrick, when addressing the multitudes at the great fair there, or the Éanach of Tailteann, quote, preached against the slaying of yoke oxen and the slaying of milch cows, and against the burning of the firstborn progeny. Is he talking about cattle or humans there? It's hard to know. In the second passage, in giving the origin of the name my Schlecht, the plane of prostrations, where the idol Crom Croach stood, and we talked about that last week, the writer tells us that the worshippers sacrificed their children to this idol in order to obtain plenty of corn, honey, and milk. Yeah, I'm immediately doubtful, but anyway. The account of the idol and of the destruction of King Chirnvas and his people while worshipping it is given in the form of a short poem, of which a shorter prose version is found in other copies of the Danann. The following is the translation by Professor Kuno Meyer of that part of the poem that concerns us. Quote, to him, square brackets, Crom Croach, without glory, they would kill their piteous, wretched offspring with much wailing and peril, to pour their blood around Crom Croach. Milk and honey they would ask from him speedily in return for 1/3 of their healthy issue. Great was the horror and the scare of him. To him noble Gaels would prostrate themselves. From the worship of him with many manslaughters, the plain is called my Schlecht. Unquote. The abridged prose version in the Wren copy of the Danann merely varies the expression. Quote, to him, Crom Croach, in square brackets, they used to offer the firstlings of every issue and the chief scions of every clan. Revue Celtique, XVI 16, page 35. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Is it an accurate record? Was there human sacrifice? Or is it a, Christian scribe trying to tar the pagans with a certain type of brush? You know? These two passages are the only direct statements known to me in all our old native literature that the ancient Irish practiced human sacrifice. And being in the same document, they amount to a single statement, so far as concerns the value of their testimony. Though Keating, O'Flaherty, the Four Masters, and other native writers of the 16th and 17th centuries, who all wrote from old authorities, tell us about the worship of Crom Croch and the death of Chirnvas, they make no mention of human sacrifice, a plain indication that they did not consider the unsupported Dinchianicus a sufficient authority on so important a point. Still more significant is the circumstance that in a preceding part of the same Book of Leinster, there is a prose account of this idol and of the death of Chirnvas with a multitude of his people while worshipping it, in which there is not a word about sacrificing human beings. Interesting. But there is still stronger evidence, though of a negative character. Scattered everywhere through our ancient literature, both secular and ecclesiastical, as this chapter shows, we find abundant descriptions and details of the rites and superstitions of the pagan Irish. And in no place, with this single exception, do we find a word or hint pointing to human sacrifice to pagan gods or idols. According to the accounts in the Dinchianicus, the worship and ritual of this idol and the practice of sacrificing the firstborn progeny continued till the time of St. Patrick. But neither in the Confession of St. Patrick, written by himself, in which he mentions and inveighs against several of the worst pagan practices, nor in the 7th century life of him by Muirachú, nor in the annotations of Tirachon, also of the 7th century, nor in the tripartite life, nor in Colgan's 7th life, which two last narratives give details of the worship of Crom Croach. In none of these, all of them older than the Dinchianicus, which is comparatively modern, is there any mention of human sacrifice. Patrick, in his progress through the country, heard all about this famous idol and turned his steps from Granard to Maishlecht for the express purpose of destroying it. If human beings had been sacrificed, he would have known of it, and his biographers would have recorded it. The writers of the lives of the saint were very naturally on the lookout for occasions to glorify his memory. They were ready enough, as we see by many examples, to show up the evil practices of the pagan Irish and to point out the change for the better after their conversion. And it seems wholly incredible that they should withhold from St. Patrick the credit of putting a stop to this, the greatest abomination of all, which, if the Dinchianicus is telling the truth, must have been notorious at that time. I have to take a drink of water. Since, according to this authority, the saint himself preached against it at Talchan. All very fascinating. I don't know what the author's predispositions were in terms of his religious beliefs. I suspect, writing in 1903, that he was a Christian. Not sure if he was a Catholic or a Protestant, to be honest. But I do find some of the language interesting. For instance, scattered everywhere through our ancient literature, both secular and ecclesiastical, as this chapter shows, as this I've read already, we find abundant descriptions and details of the rites and superstitions of the pagan Irish. Superstitions, you know, like when does a belief become a superstition? And it seems that from the point of view, from the very slanted point of view of Christianity, if it's not Christian, it's superstition. Of course, in 21st century Ireland, we would write this differently. We wouldn't use the word pagan nearly as much. We wouldn't talk about superstitions and idols and all of that stuff, which is very religious language. And in fact, they the simple fact of the matter is that if you go to a church and you pray and you believe in a man in the sky and his son who came down and all of that stuff, is that not also something that could be described as a superstition? Anyway. What about the ritual sacrifice of the kings in the bogs? A very good point, Mavanwe. I saw the bog bodies last month in the National Museum. Quite a gruesome thing to behold, but we cannot forget that. But I suppose the question arises there. Remember we discussed this, didn't I, a couple of episodes reading from the Golden Bough, Fraser's Golden Bough. And we were comparing, weren't we, where in some other cultures in different parts of the world, a king could be killed, ritually murdered, if things weren't going well, or if he had simply reached the end of a sort of a natural cycle or term of leadership. And I think, was it in Africa or somewhere else, where they could actually bury the king alive? It was quite grotesque, I thought. I'm just wondering, and I'm just making the point that the fact that there were kings who were ritually killed does not necessarily point to human sacrifice. And it certainly doesn't point to any sort of a widespread human sacrifice. Were they even being sacrificed or just killed because things had turned bad under their rule, like the weather, or the crop had failed, or a disease had come, or something else, you know? Anyway, just a question worth considering. There is still another most important consideration affecting the credit of the record in question, that nearly all of the stories in the Dinhianicus accounting for names, of which this is one, are mere fables invented to suit the several occasions. I don't think you should dismiss it too easily, you know. The Dinhianicus is, from many points of view, a highly instructive and interesting document, but its importance, fortunately, does not depend on the credibility of the stories. Did I say fortunately or unfortunately? Because the word is fortunately, but its importance, fortunately, does not depend on the credibility of the stories. As a typical example of these etymological narratives, take the story accounting for the origin and name of the River Boyne. There were, excuse me. There was a sacred well at the foot of Sheenachtan, now Carberry Hill in County Kildare, on which none were to look save 4 privileged persons, men by the way, on pain of some dreadful personal injury. But the Lady Boand ridiculed the prohibition, and, going to the well, walked contemptuously thrice round it, left-hand wise. Whereupon the well burst up round her, and broke her thigh bone, one hand, and one eye. She fled in terror eastward, but the water pursued her till she arrived at the seashore, where she was drowned. Even after that, the water continued to flow, so as to form the river Boand or Boyne, which took its name from her. And actually, the anglicised form, which is Boyne, comes from the form Boin, Boin, not Boan or Boand. It is, well, not in a roundabout way, not directly. There is Fraser's The Golden Bough in 2 volumes. Yes, but it is available as a single volume. I think I have several copies of it, actually. Um, yes. A study in magic and religion. I think the value of the Golden Bough, although it's quite dated now, I know, and you do have to be careful with dated scholarship because you have to understand what has changed, in the time since it was published. Anyway, there's one of my copies of the Golden Bough. The killing of the divine king. Look what pages it just happened to open up on. Well, that is a big section, in fairness. Yeah, we were talking about that. I think I did. I could find out fairly quickly by doing a rabbit hole. I mean, a YouTube search on the YouTube channel, the Mythical Iron YouTube channel. Golden Bough. Yeah, episode number 205, 206, 207. James G. Fraser's The Golden Bough. Streamed, it says 1 year ago, so not exactly sure exactly when. Yeah, episodes 205, 206, and 207. It is in company of such stories as this, for nearly all the Dunchianica stories are of a similar kind. We find the account of the sacrifice of human beings to Crom Croch. Mark Gordon has joined us from Iowa. Good afternoon, Mark. I wonder, did you get to see any of the eclipse yesterday? Giving due weight to all these considerations, we need have no hesitation in pronouncing this Dunchianicus report an invention pure and simple. And I venture to express my belief that no human beings were ever sacrificed in Ireland to Crom Croch or any other idol. Where and by whom the story was originated, it is now impossible to tell, but it seems probable that the poem was inserted, as Dr. Hyde remarks in his literary history, quote, by a Christian chronicler familiar with the accounts of Moloch and Ashtaroth. It is just such a statement as we might expect would be invented in order to add human sacrifice as a heightening touch to the abominations of my Schlecht. In other words, it was Christian, anti-pagan Christian propaganda. Stability of building secured by blood. But it is not unlikely that at some very remote period, long before the time of St. Patrick, human beings were immolated in another way. There was an ancient superstition that when an important building was about to be erected, its safety and stability were ensured by sprinkling the foundations with the blood of some human victim who was to be slain for the purpose. The memory of this archaic belief is preserved in the fanciful etymology of Awan, the name of the great Ulster palace, given in Cormac's glossary from M or Emma, blood, and Ein, A-I-N, or Uin, U-I-N, one, because, says the glossary, quote, the blood of one man was shed at the time of its erection, unquote. In a note on this passage, Dr. Stokes, the editor, says, quote, the superstition here referred to, as to the need of immolating a human being to ensure the stability of the building, is still current in India, unquote. It appears that a similar superstition existed among the Danes, Greeks, and Servians. Nennius has preserved the old British tradition that when Dinas Emrys in Wales was founded, pardon me if I've got the pronunciation wrong, was founded by Gortigern, his druids told him that, in order that the structure should last forever, it was necessary to sacrifice a child who had no father, and to sprinkle his blood on the foundation. Such a child was found, a little boy, who was gifted with preternatural wisdom, and who, when he was brought forth to be killed, argued the matter with the druids so successfully that the king let him off. This boy was subsequently the Welsh bard and prophet prophet, Merlin. In some of the Irish lives of St. Columkill, there is a legend that after the settlement of the saint in Iona, one of his disciples, a Briton named Odran, uh, by the way, the Irish version of that would be Oran, offered to die so that his burial, with the usual Christian rites, might scare away the demons that infested the island. So he died and was buried, and the demons fled. According to later oral versions of this legend, Odran was sacrificed by his own consent and buried under the foundations to counteract the malign influences of evil spirits who were breaking down Columkill's churches as fast as he erected them. Wow. Uh, myth, first and foremost, I think. The tradition, the tradition that persons were formerly buried alive, or first killed and then buried, under the foundations of newly erected buildings to ensure their stability, is prevalent today all over the Hebrides, according to Mr. Carmichael, who gives several traditional instances. Carmina Gaelica, etc., etc. Although this evidence is all legendary, yet, seeing that the legend is so widely spread, it is to be feared that, in some prehistoric time, the horrible rite was really practiced in Ireland as elsewhere. There is a trace, though purely legendary, of the immolation of human beings in Ireland for a different purpose, in an ancient tale referred to by Dr. W.K. Sullivan, The Courtship of Becuva, copied into the Book of Fermoy from some older book. Here, a blight comes on the corn and milk all over the country on account of a great crime committed by a woman. That old nugget again. Blame the women. On which the Druids declared that in order to remove the blight, it was necessary to slay the son of a couple characterized by certain marks and tokens, and to sprinkle the blood on the doorposts of Tara. The boy was found, but just as he was about to be killed, a wonderfully formed cow appeared, which was slain instead of him, and the doorposts were sprinkled with her blood, which removed the blight. This story, it will be observed, curiously corresponds with the Greek legend of Iphigenia, and in some respects with the narrative of the intended sacrifice of Isaac. Wow. Shall we continue another bit? Well, we'll do the weapons anyway. Section 7 is called Worship of Weapons. According to an ancient tradition given in the story of the Second Battle of Moytura, some of the pagan Irish worshipped their weapons. This story relates that after the battle, Tuatha Dé Danann, whose party had gained the victory, found on the field Orna, the sword of Tethra, a Fomorian king, and he unsheathed and cleaned it. Quote, then the sword, unquote, the story goes on to say, quote, related whatsoever had been done by it, for it was the custom of the sword at that time, when unsheathed, to set forth the deeds that had been done by them. Hence also charms are preserved in swords. Now, the reason why demons used to speak from weapons at that time was because weapons were then worshipped by human beings, unquote. A remnant of this superstition survived to the 16th century. Quote, the Irish at this day, unquote, says Spencer, View, page 97, quote, when they go to battle, Battaile, say certain prayers or charms to their swords, making a cross therewith upon the earth, and thrusting the points of their blades into the ground, thinking thereby to have the better success in fight, unquote. The veneration for arms, amounting sometimes to downright worship, accounts for the custom of swearing by them. This oath, which was very usual, was quite binding, was quite as binding as that by the elements. The reason is given in the sickbed of Cuchulainn. Quote, because demons were accustomed to speak to them from their arms, and hence it was that an oath by their arms was inviolable. Unquote. Once on a time, Cormac Geiling wanted some badgers for a feast, and going to a warren where lived certain badgers with human reason, he called on them to come forth, promising that no evil should be done to them. But they, distrusting him, refused, whereupon he swore upon his own father's spear, which he held in his hand, not to harm them. So they, believing that he would not dare to violate the spear, foolishly came forth, and Cormac fell on them instantly and killed them all. For this crime, violating the spear, his father banished him, and this son was ever after called Cormac Geiling, that is to say, quote, of the dishonoured spear, unquote. We have a witness of his infamy to this day in the barony of Gallen in County Mayo, which takes its name from him. And that's from Joyce's Irish Names of Places, Volume 2. The custom of swearing by weapons took long to die out, like the worship of them, for Spencer informs that in his day the Irish commonly swore by their swords. Worship of the elements. Now let me just take a look. Well, we can stop at any time. We don't have to read entire sections. This is section 8, worship of the elements, and the heading here begins elemental worship in general. In the lives of the saints and other ecclesiastical writings, as well as in the lay literature, we have ample evidence that various natural objects were worshipped by the ancient Irish. Spam alert again. The poxy tarot readers are just wrecking my brain this evening. Do the usual, folks. Report, please. In fairness, remember in the early days of the live streams, the first year especially, we had an awful lot of spammers and trolls. We don't get them most of the time now. A very clear example of a direct appeal to the powers of nature occurs in the story in the story of the Táin in the Book of the Dun Cow. Cuchulainn, who was a demigod, fighting alone against Maeve's forces and finding himself hard pressed, invokes the heavens and the earth, the sea and the river Crun to help him, and his prayer was answered, for the river surged up and overwhelmed numbers of his enemies. That there existed in the 9th and 10th centuries a vivid tradition of elemental worship is shown by the words of Cormac's glossary quoted below. That's on page 290. But this, which is 2 pages away. But this worship was only partial, confined to individuals or to the people of certain districts, each individual or family or group having some special favourite object. We have no record of the universal worship of any element. There is reason to believe that it was not the mere material object they worshipped, but a spirit or genius that was supposed to dwell in it. For the Celts of Ireland peopled almost all remarkable natural objects with preternatural beings. Wells. The worship of water, as represented in wells, is often mentioned. The tripartite life and Tirachon in the Book of Armagh relate that St. Patrick, in his journey through Connacht, came to a well called Slán, S-L-E for the N, i.e. healing, which the heathens worshipped as a god, believing that a certain prophet, Foy, F-A for the I-T-H in the Irish tripartite, or profeta in Tyrocon's Latin, had caused himself to be buried under it in a stone coffin to keep his bones cool from fire that he dreaded, for, quote, he adored water as a god, but hated fire as an evil being, unquote. This prophet was, of course, a druid. More than a century later, in the time of Saint Columba, as will be found mentioned farther on, there was a well in Scotland which the people, quote, worshipped as a divinity, unquote. In the account of St. Patrick's contest with the Druids at Tara, given in Murachu's life, and excuse me, also in the tripartite, we are told that the king's Druid, Lucheth Mile, declined Patrick's challenge to put the Christian and pagan books in water to ascertain which would come out unharmed, for, having heard of baptism, he declared that Patrick worshipped water as a god. We read that in our special episode on St. Patrick's Day, or the day after, last month. And when the ordeal by fire was proposed, he also objected, on the ground that the saint worshipped water and fire alternately, all which shows that the worship of these two elements was quite familiar at the time. It is to be observed that well worship was not peculiar to Ireland at one time. It prevailed all over Europe. I'm not sure if Moncon McGann's series on Ireland's sacred wells is still going on TG Cahir on Thursday evenings, but you can access that anywhere in the world on the TG Cahir or TG4 website on their player. The sun, and I mean the previous episodes, the sun was worshipped in Ireland, at least partially, good word after yesterday's eclipse, like some other natural objects, is made certain by several passages in our ancient literature. St. Patrick plainly intimates this when he says in his confession, speaking of the Irish, that all who adore the sun shall perish eternally. Wow. This is a contemporary statement, for the saint is evidently denouncing a practice existing in his own time. We have a more specific account in Cormac's glossary, but this entry is 4 centuries later and records not contemporary custom, but one existing long before the time of the compilation of the glossary. It states that Indelva, images, was the name applied to the altars of certain idols, and that these altars were so called because, quote, they, the pagans, were wont to carve on them the forms, Irish gelva, of the elements they adored, for example, the figure of the sun. As curiously corroborative of this, Keating has a legend from some old authority now not known, that in the time of St. Columkill there was in Tyrconnell a certain Christian priest, Sochart, Old Irish or Middle Irish, Modern Irish for priest, Sogart, but he must have been half a pagan, who had built a church in which he placed an altar of glass with an image, Jelov, of the sun and another of the moon carved on it, for which, as the legend has it, he was being carried off by demons, but was rescued by St. Columkill. In another part of this work, Keating quotes an ancient poem which states that the 3 last Dé Danann kings of Ireland derived their cognomens from the objects of their worship, one of whom was Magrania, son or devotee of the sun, because his god was the sun, Graham, genitive Grania. And of course, we have Macoel, son of the hazel, Macecht, son of the plough, and Magrania, son of the sun. What time are we on? 19 minutes past. Fire. Let me just bear with maybe one moment, folks. Just have to check my phone because I do have to go on an errand when I finish to pick somebody up. We'll just read the section on fire, and I think we'll leave it at that then tonight. Apparently, I'm frozen on Facebook. I wonder, is that related to the spammers and the reports of spamming? You know. So I'm watching that on Facebook, and I'm not frozen. So that's strange. Maybe that's just happening to you, Lexi. Were you having difficulties earlier on? You were, and then came back. Okay, all good here, says Adina. Thank you for that. Fire. That fire was worshipped by some of the Irish appears from the statement in the tripartite life that Laora's druid accused St. Patrick of having fire for a god. We know that certain pagan festivals were celebrated in Ireland in which fire played a prominent part. Thus, in AD 433, a great fire was kindled at Tara as part of some festival, and while it was burning, no other should be kindled in the country all round, on pain of death. Cormac's glossary, page 19, tells us that fires were lighted by the Druids on May Day with great incantations, and that cattle used to be driven through or between them as a preservative against disease for the coming year. He says also that from this ceremony, Bealtaine or May Day took its name, i.e., Bel Tena, lucky fire. Not, as I proposed earlier, related to the worship of this deity called Baal. Sorry, I'm just going to turn that off. A very ancient poem printed by Kuno Meyer in Hibernia Minora, enumerating the May Day celebrations, mentions among them a bonfire on a hill, Tendal or Cnook. Another authority states that these fires were kindled in the name of the idol god Baal. That's Cormac's glossary. Keating, page 300, tells us that it was at Uisneach during the great May Day meeting there that this fire was lighted in honour of Baal. And he goes on to say that at this same time, it was the custom to light 2 fires to Baal in every district in Ireland and to drive the cattle between them to protect them from the diseases of the year. He states also that during a meeting held on Samhain, or 1st of November, at Tuatha, that's the Hill of Ward in County Meath, a fire was kindled in which we are told that the Druids burned sacrifices. And while it lasted, all other fires in Ireland were to be distinguished, extinguished or covered, not distinguished. Fascinating stuff. These fire ceremonies have descended to our time. From an interesting communication in the Kilkenny Archaeological Journal 1883 to 4, page 64, we learn that about the beginning of the last century, people used a fire ceremonial for the cure of diseased cattle. When the disease broke out in one of the farms, all the fires in the townland were at a given time put out, and a number of men, having assembled at the farm, produced fire called, in Irish, tena aigen, i.e., forced fire, by the friction of 2 dry pieces of wood, the men taking their turn at the work. With this, they kindled a great smoky fire of scraws, which are grassy sods from the surface of a bog, mixed with soot, and held the cattle over the smoke. This, they said, stamped out the disease. Martin, page 113, found a similar custom in the Scottish Western Isles in 1703. But here, water was boiled over the tin-agin, as he calls it, tinnigan, and sprinkled over the infected cattle. The custom of driving cattle through fires against disease on the eve of the 1st of May and on the eve of the 24th of June, St. John's Day, continued in Ireland, as well as in the Scottish Highlands, to a period within living memory. Many curious fire customs are still, or were until very lately, prevalent in some parts of the country on May Day and the evening before. And on the eve of the 24th of June, St. John's Day, which we call St. John's Eve, they light open air fires when dusk comes on so that the whole country is illuminated. This custom is of great antiquity in Ireland, for the Tinna Féile Owen, the fire of John's festival, is mentioned in the Book of Hymns, a manuscript of the 9th or 10th century. As well known. Sorry, I just misread it wrong. I misread it wrong. I just misread it. It is mentioned in the Book of Hymns as well known at the time of the writer. The information given here regarding the worship of the elements has been drawn from authentic sources. But the detailed descriptions of sun and fire worship in Ireland, given by some writers of the last century, and their speculations about bovine cultus or porcine cultus, is it porcine or porcine? Crum, the god of fire or of the winds, and such like, as well as the pictures of divination by Irish druids from the blood of victims, are all the dreams of persons who never undertook the labour of investigating the matter by reference to the ancient, authentic literary of the country. Well said, Mr. Joyce. Well said. They would be some of those apparently learned antiquarians who tended to write an awful lot of rubbish made up from their own, concocted from their own wild imaginations. Rex is saying, like the film Wicker Man, that I always considered Christian scare propaganda. That's a very weird film. And yeah, yes, when you watch it, you just get the impression it's got some sort of weird anti-pagan message in it, you know. This episode has been a great companion on a late evening dog walk. The park to ourselves, says Alan Hoskins. Brilliant. And I hope down there it's like it is here in the county of Louth, that it's been, well, it was a very pleasant evening. A little bit cool, but the sun was shining this evening. Debbie Sheehy is saying good morning from Melbourne. Fascinating stuff. Now the clocks have changed. It's a bit trickier to join as it's so early in the morning now. Good to be here. Yeah, I was wondering about that. So you've sprung forward and now you're 7 hours ahead of us instead of 8. No, 9 hours instead of 10 hours. Debbie, just quickly, because we're finished, but just before you go, will you tell me what time it is there? What is the local time? Give me one moment. This is the person I'm expecting. Just give me one. And apologies about that. Debbie is going to tell us, I hope, what time. Mariana Dunn, who did I say hello to you earlier, Mariana? I'm not sure whether I did or not, but great to see you here. Debbie, she 6:27 local, and we're at 9:28 p.m. So yeah, you're 9 hours ahead. You were 10, but you're now 9. That's what it is. Rivers in Time says it's a stormy night here. Where is here? Wow. We're lucky then, you know. Anyway, I'm going to go because I have to ring this person back who's. Yes, I did say, didn't I? I had an errand to do. It's 9:30 anyway. Hope you all enjoyed yourselves. Sorry for being a day late. Turns out the eclipse was eclipsed. We could have streamed last night because there was nothing to see. But I did watch some of the live streams of the total eclipse. And yeah, Edinburgh. Oh, okay. All the lip readers, are going, oh yeah, I know what he was saying. Anyway, yeah, I'm gonna go. Thanks for joining us. Please do, as I was saying early in the episode, please do subscribe to the emails on the website, and everybody who does so gets a free €10 voucher next Monday. That's the plan. I'm saying that's the plan. We will give you the voucher. I'm just not exactly sure of how that will be executed, how that gets sent out. But you will get a €10 voucher. And please do, as always, support Mythical Ireland and everything we do by becoming a Patreon patron. Good night, and we'll see you next week for the next installment. It continues to be fascinating. It's a wonderful book, and so many insights. And even though it's over a century old at this point, and some of it has been superseded by more recent scholarship, a lot of it is still extremely relevant. I think you'll agree. Have a great evening / night / morning / afternoon, everyone, says Anne McCallum. See you next week. Yes, indeed. And Ichawa Kolosov Slonga Fol and Toga Bugay. Take it easy.